I'm Veronica Oakeshott. I'm the Labour prospective parliamentary candidate for Bicester and Woodstock constituency. We want to see a thriving Bicester and Woodstock where people have good public services that they can rely on. That's core to what my ambition for the area is. At the moment, there is a lot of growth in our area, but the infrastructure is not going with it. And the Labour Party puts public services at the heart of its proposals for the electorate, and I will do the same here. And I've got a track record of winning campaigns, and I don't just mean winning campaigns electorally, which I do have. I have won election campaigns, but I mean if and when I'm elected, campaigns to deliver for people locally on local issues, because I'm under no illusions that when you're elected things come on a plate. You know, we will have to work, and I will work, and I've got a track record of delivering, and public services will be at the top of the list. It's a huge issue here, an absolutely huge issue. We're filming in Bicester in a new development. It's halfway through its life in terms of its building phase. Graven Hill, it started being building in 2016. There will be further building until 2032, I believe. And this is just one part of Bicester. All around Bicester, new houses are being built, and the public infrastructure is just not keeping up with it. And what I hear from residents when I speak to them on the doorstep is that they can't get the doctor's appointments. They're struggling with getting primary school places in Kingsmere. I know that in the primary school, there's almost double the number of applications for places at reception than there are actual places. And so people are having to travel much more than they otherwise would in order to access the basics. And that's really not great for a community. You know, people need to be able to be together. They need the infrastructure locally. And also we want to get away from a very car dependent society where, because the services aren't there, you have to get in your car to do everything. Obviously we can build good green and active travel pathways and routes, and I'm really up for that, but that doesn't suit everybody. You know, some people simply can't cycle to work, can't cycle to the doctors, and so we do need services that are nearby. Otherwise, you know, the congestion that we see in places like Bicester is an inevitability. Well, what they will do is we make those claims on technicalities. They will almost never actually stand up to scrutiny. So, for example, recently the Institute of Fiscal Studies, when commenting on the recent budget, the director called it smoke and mirrors, and that's an independent think tank or institute, and that's not the Labour Party. We've seen high levels of inflation, and so to keep up with inflation, high levels of inflation, frankly, that this incompetent government has been responsible for causing, or at least partly responsible for causing. Of course, spending needs to be higher than inflation if it's going to be increasing in any real terms. The Conservatives may be pirouetting on numbers to try and make us believe that they're investing in public services, but frankly, you know, I and my fellow residents of Bicester and Woodstock can feel that it's not true. You know, we know that 10 years ago when we went to the doctors, we had a faster service. It was easier to get an appointment. We know that our kids, you know, had more options in schools in terms of subjects. So, you know, we can have some economists telling us that, you know, the numbers are up, but frankly, we know it's not true. Well, it is really important that we balance the books, because what the current Conservative government has shown is that by being wildly incompetent and not taking any financial advice, and we all know what happened when Liz Truss was at the steering wheel for a heartbeat, they have shown that they take everyone down with them when they are economically incompetent. So certainly Labour will put sensible economics at the heart of its plans. And part of that is about giving business the confidence to invest. I mean, we're in a recession at the moment. Businesses are finding it difficult to know what's ahead, and if they can have the confidence of a Labour government with a plan, and we've had the same shadow chancellor for many years now, unlike the Conservatives, who are chopping and changing and having to put new people in the job who are learning the ropes, frankly, probably they could do with asking the shadow chancellor for her experience about what to do. So I feel until we've got a Labour chancellor in charge, businesses are going to struggle to have the confidence to invest. But I think the prospects are good for once we've got a Labour government, and that will help us with balancing the books. That will enable us to grow the pie. Because of course, you know, there are going to be multiple calls on our spending, and rightly so. You know, there's a lot that we want to achieve. We absolutely have to put public services first. We have to put the basics, keep people healthy. Keeping people healthy, by the way, is not an either or with the economy. It's not like you can have an unhealthy population and expect to have a vibrant economy. We've got a real productivity problem in the UK, and we've also got a public health problem. A lot of people are out of work because they're not healthy enough to work. So it's not either focus on the economy or focus on public services. It's focus on public services to build the economy. That goes for health, but it also goes for education. You know, we can't be having children who are in overcrowded schools with limited subjects. How is that going to benefit our future knowledge-based economy? That's the kind of economy we want to be part of, and Labour will generate. Oh yes, yes. I'm pleased to see this, because I think what it is the 5 polls, and of the 5, we are either top or very nearly top. And of those, Lib Dems look like they're ahead in 1. In the other 4 of the 5, it's either Conservatives or it's Labour. And can I say, in 2 of them, it's Labour. So electoral calculus has us leading, and I have to say these are not new to me, these polls, because of course you notice when your party is leading, and I'm you know, really excited to see that Labour's leading in electoral calculus polls. But it's not just electoral calculus polls, in Survation and YouGov polls as well that you're showing me here. Labour is just a few hundred votes behind the Conservatives, and the Lib Dems are far behind in 3rd place. So really the vast balance of the data on the new constituency, and that is the thing, that it is a new message for people, because the data is different, because different people are voting together. And now that Bicester is voting alongside Woodstock, and we go all the way to Ensham, and we've got Kidlington, taken together, there are far more Labour voters, and that makes it a really strong Labour prospect. And at the moment, the vast majority, 4 out of 5 of the polls, are showing that either Labour is ahead or we're fractionally behind the Conservatives. And frankly, most people that I speak to on the doorstep are desperate to get rid of a Conservative government. So if they want to do that, what the data is showing them now, and I'm talking new data from this year, not some ancient history for an old constituency, the new data for this constituency is saying vote Labour to get rid of the Conservatives. There are more than one ways of letting the Conservatives through, and I think you probably remember 2010 when we had a coalition government and the Lib Dems facilitated a return to power of the Conservatives, and I think we're all still paying the price of that, and many things have happened, most of them painful, since then. So I would warn any people who feel that they're progressive not to assume that it's much of a muchness whether they go for Labour or Lib Dem. It's a very different prospect. You will never find a Labour government cozying up with the Conservatives in a coalition, never ever in a month of Sundays. And so if you want to be absolutely sure that you're not going to enable a Conservative government, I think the best thing to do, the only thing to do, is to vote Labour. So I think this is a really interesting issue, and I do see that there are some merits to PR. And actually, I have had a few people raise it on the doorstep with me, by no means a kind of regular thing, but people have. I think that it's very important to have a local link with your Member of Parliament. And I think that is one of the downsides of PR, that the link is looser between the representative and the community. But I'm certainly up for a conversation about it. But broadly, I wouldn't see it as a priority. I'm focused on delivering for the constituents of Bicester and Woodstock, and for me that meaning that they have access to the basics, many of which they don't currently have. You know, they can't get a doctor's appointment when they need it. They can't get a school place that is really close to home. So those very practical things will be my focus, not constitutional change. And I know that there have been discussions about, and indeed a referendum on PR. But I do also think there are some important issues that we can move on to once the public are getting their basic public services. Well, I suppose you could ask, do you want Mr. Austerity to be in charge of your constituency? That was a very decisive and planned policy. And we are still living with the results of that. You know, back when interest rates were low, we didn't invest in public services. Now interest rates are high, and our public services, our school roofs are literally falling in, and people are in porta cabins because, you know, the infrastructure is falling down. In the Oxford University hospitals, so the John Radcliffe and our Horton and the university hospitals in this area have one of the worst unmet repair bills of any area in the UK. So we really are feeling the impact now of those austerity years, and the absolute last thing we need is more, particularly not a combination, which you get with the Conservatives, of austerity and neglect for public services on the one hand, and kind of Wild West economics on the other. You know, the decision making is absolutely bizarre. The public just can't afford that. I think the time for kind of experiments, economic experiments to see if this or that might work is well over. We need some grown-ups in charge of our economy now. What we need is economies that where wealth is generated and kept in local areas, not sent offshore in tax avoidance scams, and not all going to London either, you know. And we need vibrant economies here, and the Labour Party has some really exciting plans about how to generate that. For example, by completely reforming business rates, which are really unfair at the moment. You know, if you've got a small shop and you're trying to run you're trying to run a service and you're trying to run a business for the public, you have to compete with online giants who are paying almost nothing in tax. And then we wonder why our high streets are hollowed out, you know. I would like to see more integration between Bicester Village, which is a big economic powerhouse, and the community here, so that we can benefit. And I think it takes an MP who really cares about the area, and I feel this area has been very neglected, to actually make that happen. You know, it's crazy to have one of the top tourist attractions in the country next to a lovely historic town, but with boarded up shops in the centre. You know, we can do better than that. So what we need is change, and I think we need a focus on public services and an understanding that public services and the economy go together. I think we can do better. I think we deserve better. I think with Labour, a Labour government nationally, and a Labour MP locally to fight for what's needed, will make life better for people here in Bicester and Woodstock.